Guys, stay down. They're still shooting. My name's Oliver.
I'm Charles.
I'm Nigel.
Oliver.
Charles.
My name is Oliver Bailey. I'm from Leeds, England. I entered the war on July 19, 1914. I was deployed to the Battle of the Somme at the age of 16. Today was the first day of training. My day started by a harsh wake-up at 5:30 due to the WWI. I tidied my quarters and had a brew. When 6:30 rolled around, I had to go on my parade. During this hour-and-a-half parade, I worked on improving my physical fitness.
I want to see some push-ups on the ground now.
Yes, sir.
Faster! Harder! Come on, more push-ups.
Soon after, we all gathered to eat our scrumptious breakfast. For the rest of the soldiers and I, we learned to drill and to march. After our lunch, we returned to our drills. At 4:15, I went back to my quarters and cleaned my kit and shined my boots. It's been 1 month since I started my training. I already feel stronger than when I arrived. Training has begun to get harder. We have started to learn the basics of movement in the field. We were also introduced into night operations and route marching.
Don't smile.
The food here is not desirable. Every day we eat the same bully beef and biscuits.
I'm so hungry.
This food is not desirable.
It's been 2 days since I've last eaten.
Me too.
It's better than nothing, though.
Yes. We also do not get enough nourishment to sustain us through our drills. The weather here is also very bad. It rains every day, therefore it gets very muddy. I have trouble keeping myself clean. The Army has been struggling to supply every soldier with everything on the equipment list. Weapons were also in very short supply. Thankfully, I joined the Army just in time to get everything on the equipment list and a rifle. It's been 2.5 months since my training has started. I have learned my weapon handling skills and how to dig trenches. I also received my steel helmet. I was one of the lucky ones. Many of the other men did not receive helmets due to a lack of supply. After my time in the training camps, my life has been very dull. In order to be entertained, I have gotten very good at eavesdropping. A couple of days ago, I overheard some of the generals talking. They said that the Battle of the Somme, which I am going to fight in, started to pull German forces away from the Battle of Verdun. The French are also suffering severe casualties there, and the Battle of the Somme was away early.
Sent to the Battle of the Somme.
Because the French have suffered horrible losses in the Battle of Verdun, and we're getting sent to distract the German army.
Today was my last day of training. I'm getting deployed to the Battle of the Somme tomorrow. I'm kind of nervous for battle, but I know I have to serve my country. Now, Charles, tell me your story.
My name is Charles Spencer, and I'm an 18-year-old from London, England. I arrived here at the Battle of the Somme on August 12th. I've been in the trenches for 3 weeks now. I've been told that the trenches stretch throughout Belgium and northern France. Sandbags line the edge of the trenches, which are used as a barrier, keeping us safe from bullets and shell fragments that could injure us. Another way we have made it safer for us soldiers in the trenches is by lining them with barbed wire, which we can lay in certain patterns to direct the German soldiers in certain areas if they were to attack us. The barbed wire is really painful and can get stuck in your skin. I once saw a dead body that got stuck in the barbed wire and lay there for days. The trenches are supposed to keep us safe from machine gun fire and artillery, but sometimes I wonder if we'd be better off without them. I have witnessed so many horrible sights these past few weeks. I've seen countless people die in front of me, seen my friends turned into strangers from shell shock, and many people have gotten very sick. Due to the unsanitary conditions of the latrines, people have been getting dysentery. Due to the unsanitary conditions with the latrines, people have been getting dysentery and cholera. The latrines are 4 to 5 foot deep pits at the ends of trenches where soldiers go to the bathroom while sitting on wooden planks. Two people from each unit are designated latrine cleaners, but sometimes commanding officers make soldiers clean it if they misbehave. The trenches offer very little protection from the weather. Sometimes, when it has rained for days, the trenches can get really flooded. The water can't get out because the trenches are dug into the earth, so we have to wait for it to disappear. Since we were on the front lines, we never had time to change our socks or shoes, and in the particularly rainy times, many people like myself developed trench foot.
My foot hurts so bad.
What'd you do to it?
I don't know. Let me look.
Oh, that looks like trench foot. That's awful.
What does that mean?
It's when your foot rots off from the water in the bottom of the trench.
I hope I don't have to get it amputated.
I don't know, you might. That looks pretty bad.
Trench foot is when your foot turns black and all of the surface tissue dies. Oftentimes, the soldiers with trench foot have to get their feet amputated. I hope mine isn't that bad. Compared to a lot of people I've seen, my injuries are nothing. So many people have gotten bullet wounds or chemical gas wounds. The chemical gas wounds come from mustard gas, which kills very painfully. Those who don't die from the fumes are left with awful blisters, which are prone to infection.
Oh my God. I can't believe I made it out alive. Oh, they used the mustard gas. I was one of the very few to survive. Look at the burns.
Are you okay?
No, it stings. And I'm choking. I need a gas mask. It burns.
You're probably thinking life on the battlefield can't get much worse than that, but no man's land is the most dangerous part of this trench warfare. No man's land is the area between our British trench and the Germans' trench. No man's land is very dangerous because of the lack of protection from artillery fire. It's all just a big open space. Occasionally, one side will decide to try and storm no man's land in hopes of gaining ground, but it hardly ever works, and will usually end with mass casualties.
Let's storm no man's land.
Let's go get the British.
I'm glad I wasn't in the first group of soldiers to arrive here at the Battle of the Somme. On the very first day of battle, there were over 57,000 British casualties. The fighting has thankfully not been super intense lately. In fact, us soldiers often get bored sitting in the trenches all day. We usually play cards or write letters back home in our free time. It can get so boring here in the trenches.
All we have is our cards and our letters.
Who are you writing to?
I'm writing to my mother, hoping that it gets back to her so she knows I'm okay.
We usually sleep in the afternoon when it's light out, and we only get an hour of sleep at night. The British Army employed 300,000 field workers to supply food for us soldiers. Towards the beginning of the war, we were given 10 ounces of meat and 8 ounces of vegetables a day. Now, us soldiers on the front line receive meat 9 out of every 30 days after the Germans blockaded our incoming shipment routes. I'm so hungry.
Me too. I haven't had food in 2 days.
I wish we had some bread.
I just remember, I think I had some in my pocket. That is the story of my time here on the front line at the Battle of the Somme. Tell me, Nigel, what is your story?
My name is Nigel Harris, and I was drafted into the war at age 17. I was told to lie to the enlistment officer so I would be allowed to fight. I entered battle on August 7th, 1914. The first day in the battle was the hardest. I had no idea what to expect, and the mere gunfire was the least of my worries. Not an hour into the fighting, we were being attacked by deadly mustard gas. The smell was awful, but I quickly forgot when I began to choke on the chemical gas. We had not been given the proper equipment to deal with it yet, so we had to run toward the enemy and fight for our lives just to escape the gas. I killed a man with my bayonet, but it didn't even faze me. I wanted to keep running forever, but I stopped at the front line trench. They had gas masks there. I grabbed one before they ran out, held it to my face to stop the choking momentarily.
The mustard gas. Oh, it burns.
Do you need a gas mask?
I need a mask. Hurry, quick. I can't breathe. I'm gonna choke. There's more people. Do you have any more masks?
We're out. That's the last one.
Once I got to the safety of the trench, I could hear the rumbling sound of tanks coming towards us. We panicked and ran around trying to find weapons to defend ourselves. As we couldn't retreat because the back trench had been filled with dangerous mustard gas, we found some weapons, mostly small rifles with bayonets, useless against tanks. I gathered as many men as I could who were also scrambling around looking for a place to hide or for a weapon. We gathered on the bank of the trench facing the Germans and opened fire on the tanks. No use. The bullets did nothing. We decided to turn and run, occasionally shooting behind us.
The tank!
Hoping that artillery would come into action soon, we prayed that the bombs would soon start flying overhead toward the enemy. It was our only chance of survival. We couldn't outrun the hordes of men coming after us. As we ran through no man's land, I could hear the bullets fly by my head. We got further than I ever thought we would. But it was heartbreak every time I saw someone drop next to me. I could see a group of men in the distance waving their arms at us, signaling to run towards them for cover. It was only about 100 meters, but it seemed like a mile. As I got closer, the people around me started to drop faster. I witnessed more bloodshed in the 30 seconds it took to run back than any other time during the war. I wanted to save them. The wounded couldn't help themselves, but my life surely would have been lost if I had stopped to help. I can still see the dead bodies, lifeless and still, as I ran by.
Wake up, hurry, they're shooting at us. Wake up! Not another casualty.
Guilty that I couldn't do more to help. Once I reached the men, we mounted machine guns on the banks and started firing. But as much as the machine guns did, the tanks were still coming our way. At least the explosion craters in the battlefield slowed them down. Thankfully, just enough. We could hear the whistling of bombs flying through the air. Artillery was finally being used. The tanks all went down in a short time, and the ground was riddled with craters from the bombs.
Artillery's finally here.
Us who were left had to make it back to the supporting trench behind the front line, so we weren't out in the open. I was a little more at ease knowing that the enemy had not fired shots at us for a few hours. I laid down to rest once I got in the trench, but it was nearly impossible because of the water and the rats. But I made it here alive, and hopefully I'll make it out alive.